Welcome back, music lovers, and thank you again for joining me for another weekly word of wisdom. And if you are here for the first time, welcome. Thank you for joining. Make sure you click that subscribe button and the notification bell that's right next to the subscribe button. That way you can be notified every time I put out new videos. And if you are a low-carb food lover, make sure you check out the link in the description to my other YouTube channel, Janet's Delicious Low Carb Kitchen. There's lots of easy, yummy recipes there. But for today, our weekly word of wisdom is going to come from the book of Colossians. Colossians chapter 13, we're going to read verses 12 through 14. Says, "Therefore, as God's chosen people, holy and dearly loved, clothe yourselves with compassion, kindness, humility, gentleness, and patience. Bear with each other and forgive one another. If any of you has a grievance against someone, forgive as the Lord forgave you. And over all these virtues, put on love, which binds them all together in perfect unity." So today we're going to talk a little bit about love. The word love in today's world has almost lost its full impact and its full true meaning. People just kind of throw the word around. They throw the phrase "I love you" around, just not really thinking about what it really means. They see something they really like and, "Oh, I love that." Somebody does something that they really like, "Oh, I love you for that." They use it more of just as a phrase or an expression of deep feeling or excitement. But in reality, love, it's not just a phrase. It's not just a word you say when you're really happy or really excited about something. Love is actually a verb, which means it is a word of action. In order to truly love someone or love something, it takes action. It takes effort. I've heard the saying, "Don't just tell me you love me, show me." Anyone can say, "I love you." But the way that you know a person truly loves someone else is by how that person treats the person that they say they love. Somebody can say, "Oh, I love you," but their actions are completely opposite from someone that loves you. I know my husband loves me, not just because he tells me he loves me, but he does things that shows me that he loves me. His attitude when we're out together, he's concerned about me. He smiles when he's with me, doesn't look miserable. There's all different kinds of ways that people can show that they love someone, but they all take action and effort. And it's the same in our relationship with God. Anyone can say, "I love God," but it's how we live our day-to-day life and our attitude and our aura around us that really shows whether or not we truly do love God. 1 John chapter 3 and verse 18 says for us not to just love in words, but to love in deeds. So it takes more than us just saying, "I love you, God." If we truly love Him, our actions are going to show that. And this little passage right here in Colossians that we just read just gives us a few little things that we can do in our life that show that we love God. The first thing in verse 12, it says for us to clothe ourselves with compassion and kindness. In other words, think about other people. It's really easy to get caught up in our own lives and our own circumstances. But if we truly love God, we get out of our own little world and we are concerned and care about other people. Even people who aren't very nice to us, people that we don't get along with, we still show compassion and we are still concerned about them. Matthew chapter 5 and verse 44 tells us to love our enemies, to do good to those who hate us, and to pray for those who despitefully use us. When we show that we love God, we are compassionate not only to those who care about us, but also to those who don't care about us. That's not always easy to do. Sometimes people that we don't get along very well with, bad things happen to them, and our first reaction is, "Well, he deserved that." God doesn't do that to us. When we do something that we know we're not supposed to and we get ourselves into trouble, God doesn't look down on us and say, "Well, they deserve that. They didn't listen." And so when we love God, we show that same love to other people, even if they don't show love back to us. We still care about them. We still are concerned. If we see them going through a hard time, we still go to them and ask them, "How can I help? And if they're rude to us and they turn their backs on us, that's their problem they got to work out. But we, showing that we love God, we reach out and we are compassionate to all people. Verse 12 goes on to say not just to clothe ourselves with compassion and kindness, but to also clothe ourselves with humility and gentleness. In other words, don't judge other people. No one is better than the next person. It doesn't matter who you are, what kind of lifestyle you have, how much you have or how much you don't have. No one is better than the next person. Part of showing that we love God is seeing people as He sees them. The Bible talks about in several places how God sees us all equally. When He sees us, He doesn't see race or religion. He doesn't see rich. He doesn't see poor. He doesn't see fancy houses, fancy clothes. He doesn't see all these things. He sees each one of us as individual human beings with the same weaknesses, the same feelings, the same emotions, and He loves each and every one of us the same exact way. And so part of us showing that we love God is treating everyone the same, no matter who they are, no matter if there's someone who's popular and wealthy, or if there's someone that's on the street that doesn't have a home. We don't judge them. We don't act like we're better than them. We are loving, we are caring, we are kind, we are compassionate towards them. We treat everyone with humility, with gentleness, and with equal respect. That's part of showing how much we love God. The other thing that verse 12 goes on to say says, clothe yourself with patience. We've talked about patience before. We've talked about how nobody likes to talk about patience. And we've talked about how patience isn't just being long-suffering or being tolerant of people and situations around you. Patience is a complete attitude. It's an attitude that says, no matter what's going on around me, I'm going to try to stay positive. I'm going to have faith. I'm going to believe that God is going to help me through everything. And patience is just stepping back and saying, okay, I've done what I can do. The rest is in God's hands, and we believe and trust that He will work it all out. And so part of loving God is having patience. And we move on in these verses of scriptures that we read. Verse 14 says, to forgive as the Lord forgave you. Another way that we show we love God is by forgiving people. Some things are easy to forgive. Sometimes you get into a little argument with somebody. For the moment, there's some bad feelings there. Then that person comes back and apologizes, and things are all good and fine again. Other things, they're not so easy to forgive. Sometimes somebody does something and that really hurts you. Sometimes it's physical hurt. Sometimes it's emotional hurt. And sometimes that person will come back and will ask for forgiveness, and it's really hard to forgive that person because they really cut you deep. And what about the people who never ask for forgiveness? It's kind of hard to forgive someone when they don't ever admit that they did something wrong, right? It's hard to forgive someone when they never admit that they actually hurt you. But part of showing that you love God is having the ability to forgive people no matter what. Whether they admit they are wrong or whether they don't admit they are wrong doesn't matter so much as our heart. We can forgive people in our hearts, even if they never admit that they did something wrong, even if they never admit that they hurt us. We, showing that we love God, can say, you know what? I still forgive this person. God's forgiven me countless times, and even though this person has really hurt me and won't even admit that they hurt me, I am still in my heart going to forgive that person, and I'm still going to love that person because God forgives me and loves me. The last part of this portion of verses that we read in verse 14 says, over all these virtues put on love, which binds them all together in perfect unity. All of these virtues that we just talked about, having compassion, being kind, being humble, being forgiving, all of these things that we talked about, they are all results of love. When we are able to do all these things, we are able to show that we love God. People do not know that a person loves God if they don't feel it, if they don't see it, if there's not an attitude and a lifestyle behind it, they have no idea that you love God. If people don't see a difference between you who say you love God and someone who doesn't say they love God, if they don't see a difference, then they're never going to know. But when we put our love into action and we show how much we love God, then in return, He is going to show us how much He loves us. And I know for a fact that God loves us a lot. So I hope you enjoyed today's weekly word of wisdom. If you do, make sure you give me a big fat thumbs up like, click that subscribe button, leave me a comment if you want to. The more likes and comments I get, the more YouTube knows you want more. And until next time, remember God loves you and so do I.